There's a moment most professionals recognize. You are in the middle of something important. A deadline, a client call, a proposal, and then Windows decides it needs to update. Not later, now. Your machine restarts. Your files are not where you left them. Something in your taskbar has changed. And no one asked you. Microsoft just decided that moment, that specific maddening moment, is the reason millions of people are quietly switching to a Linux-based operating system called Zorin OS Pro. Not because it is trendy, not because someone told them to, because they did the math. And Windows stopped making sense. This video is not a sales pitch for Zorin. It is an investigation. We are going to look at what is actually happening inside your operating system, why the business model of Windows is working against you, and why Zorin OS Pro is the most practical alternative most professionals have never seriously considered. Stay until the end. The last section alone will change how you think about your computer. Let us start with a number. According to StatCounter, as of early 2025, Windows still holds roughly 72% of the global desktop operating system market. That sounds dominant, and it is. But here's what that number hides. A growing segment of that 72% is staying on Windows not because they prefer it. They are staying because switching feels complicated. Because they do not know there's a real alternative. Because nobody told them the cost of staying was this high. What is that cost? Time, privacy, control, performance, and increasingly, money. Windows 11 now requires a Microsoft account to set up. It bundles advertising into the Start menu. It runs telemetry processes in the background that send data back to Microsoft servers, even on the Pro version, unless you go deep into group policy settings that most people do not know exist. And it does all of this while charging you for the privilege. Zorin OS Pro costs $39, one time. No subscription, no telemetry, no forced updates, no ads in your file manager. That is not a feature list. That is a philosophical difference in how an operating system should treat the person using it. To understand why Zorin matters, you need to understand what it is and where it came from. Zorin OS was created by two brothers, Artyom and Kirill Zorin, who started the project in 2008 when they were teenagers in Ireland. They were frustrated with how complicated Linux was for everyday users. So they built something different, a Linux distribution that looked familiar, that felt intuitive, that did not require you to learn command line instructions just to install a printer. The Pro version launched as a way to fund the project and add premium features. Additional desktop layouts, extra software bundles, and a professional installation wizard. But here is what most people do not know. Zorin OS is built on Ubuntu, which is itself built on Debian. These are among the most stable, battle-tested software foundations in the world. The same base that runs the majority of web servers globally, the same infrastructure that powers cloud computing at Google, Amazon, and Meta. This is not experimental software. This is consumer packaging around enterprise-grade infrastructure. And that distinction matters enormously when you're thinking about using it for professional work. Let us walk through what actually happens when you install and use Zorin OS Pro, because understanding the mechanics is what separates an informed decision from a gamble. First, the installation. You download a file called an ISO. You write it to a USB drive using a free tool. You restart your computer, boot from the USB, and the installer walks you through the process. It takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes. During that process, you are never asked for a Microsoft account. You are never shown advertising. You choose your username and password. That is it. Once inside, the desktop. If you are coming from Windows, Zorin OS Pro gives you a taskbar at the bottom, a start button in the lower left, a system tray in the lower right. It feels deliberately familiar. That is intentional. The Zorin team designed it this way because they understood that the single biggest barrier to switching is not capability. It is muscle memory. Now, software. This is where people get nervous. They ask, can I run my applications? The honest answer is most of them, yes. LibreOffice handles Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files. GIMP is a professional-grade alternative to Photoshop. GetInLive handles video editing at a level that surprises people. For web-based tools, Google Docs, Notion, Slack, Zoom, Microsoft 365 in the browser, you are simply using a browser, and browsers are the same everywhere. For software that is specifically Windows only, Zorin includes a compatibility layer called Wine, plus a tool called Bottles that makes it easier to configure. This is not perfect, but it handles more than most people expect. The update system is different too, and when Zorin updates, it tells you. It does not restart without permission. It does not run for 20 minutes while you are trying to present. You decide when updates happen. And underneath all of this, the system is using your hardware more efficiently. Linux has always been leaner than Windows. On older hardware especially, the difference is significant. Machines that crawl on Windows 10 often run cleanly on Zorin. Let us make this concrete. Because technical specs mean nothing if you cannot picture yourself actually working this way. Scenario 1. You are a freelance designer. You work in Figma, which is browser-based. You edit video in a tool that exports to standard formats. You communicate via Slack and email. You send invoices through a web platform. If that is your workflow, you could migrate to Zorin OS tomorrow and lose nothing. Your entire stack is browser-based. The operating system becomes almost irrelevant. Scenario 2. You are a writer or journalist. You work in Google Docs or in a desktop word processor. You research online. You record interviews. Every single one of those tasks is fully supported in Zorin. LibreOffice Writer is a capable word processor. Audacity handles audio. VLC handles any video format you will ever encounter. Scenario 3. You are a software developer. This is actually where Linux shines brightest. Development tools, terminal access, version control with Git, containerization with Docker, all of this is native to Linux. Many developers who use macOS at work use Linux personally because it is closer to the server environments they are deploying to. Zorin does not change this calculus, it enhances it. Scenario 4. You are an accountant or financial professional who lives inside Excel and Windows-only software. This is the hardest case. LibreOffice Calc is capable, but it is not Excel. If your workflow depends on Excel macros or a Windows-only accounting platform, you will face genuine friction. Zorin is not the right answer for everyone, and being honest about that matters. The point is not that Zorin works for every person. The point is that it works for more people than realize it. And most professionals have never actually evaluated their stack carefully enough to know where they fall. Here is where we go deeper than the surface-level comparison. When security professionals evaluate operating systems, they look at something called the attack surface. How many entry points exist for malicious code to get in? Windows has a massive attack surface. It runs more background services, has more legacy code, supports more hardware configurations, and is the primary target of virtually every piece of malware ever written. Not because Windows is poorly designed, but because 72% market share makes it the most profitable target. Linux systems, by contrast, have a much smaller attack surface. The permission model is fundamentally different. Software cannot install itself without explicit authorization. Processes cannot elevate their own privileges without a password. The architecture was designed from the beginning around the assumption that multiple users with different permission levels would share the same machine. This does not mean Linux is invulnerable, it is not. But the practical reality is that the vast majority of ransomware, spyware, and malware simply does not run on Linux systems. Now, the privacy dimension. Windows 11 collects what Microsoft calls diagnostic data. At the basic level, this includes device information, crash reports, and usage data. At the full level, which is the default for many users, it includes details about what applications you use, what you type in the search bar, and browsing behavior through Edge integration. You can limit this, but you cannot eliminate it without tools most users do not know about. Zorin collects nothing by default. There is no telemetry built into the operating system. The company makes money by selling the pro version of the software. That is the entire business model. When the revenue model is the product itself, not the data of its users, the incentives align differently. This is not a political statement about privacy. It is a structural observation about incentive design. Any serious analysis has to include the problems, and Zorin has real ones. Hardware compatibility is the most honest concern. While Linux has made remarkable progress, some hardware still does not work well. Certain Wi-Fi chipsets require manual driver installation. Some newer graphics cards, particularly from NVIDIA, require additional configuration steps. Touchscreen devices can be inconsistent. If you have a very new laptop with cutting-edge components, you may hit friction that a Windows user simply would not encounter. The fix, often, is to search for your specific hardware model before you commit. The Linux community has documented these issues extensively, but it requires research that Windows does not. Software gaps are the second honest concern. If your professional life depends on Adobe Creative Suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, there is no native Linux version. The alternatives are capable, but not identical. If you have years of muscle memory built around Adobe tools, the relearning cost is real. Similarly, if your organization uses Microsoft Teams at an advanced level with specific integrations, phone system features, or enterprise administrative tools, the Linux version of Teams is functional but occasionally lags behind in features. Troubleshooting culture is the third. When something goes wrong on Windows, you Google the error message and usually find a straightforward answer. When something goes wrong on Linux, the answer often involves the terminal. If you are not comfortable with that, or willing to become comfortable, you will find the experience more stressful. Zorin specifically works to minimize this, but it does not eliminate it entirely. And finally, organizational compatibility. If you work in a company that uses Active Directory, domain-joined machines, group policy, and enterprise software deployed through Windows infrastructure, a personal switch to Linux may conflict with IT requirements. This is not a Zorin problem. It is an enterprise reality. None of these are deal breakers for most independent professionals and freelancers, but they are real, and pretending they do not exist helps no one. To understand why Windows has evolved the way it has, you need to understand Microsoft's business model as it exists today. Microsoft's most profitable division is not Windows. It is Azure, the cloud platform. And it is Microsoft 365, the subscription productivity suite. Windows, as a standalone product, is less central to Microsoft's revenue than it used to be. This changes the incentive structure around the operating system itself. Windows becomes increasingly a vehicle, a delivery mechanism, a way to keep users inside the Microsoft ecosystem, tied to OneDrive, signed into Microsoft accounts, using Edge as the default browser, purchasing Microsoft 365 subscriptions. That is why Windows 11 requires a Microsoft account for the Home Edition setup. Not because it technically requires one, it does not, but making it the default path increases account creation rates, which increases the addressable base for Microsoft services. That is why the Start menu shows advertisements for apps. Not because users asked for them, because the advertising revenue and the app promotion revenue are meaningful at scale. That is why OneDrive is integrated so deeply that it can be confusing to figure out which files are local and which are cloud only. Because cloud storage is a subscription, and subscriptions are recurring revenue. None of this is secret. None of it is necessarily wrong from a business perspective. But it is important to name it clearly, because once you see it, you understand that the decisions being made inside your operating system are not being made for you. They are being made for shareholders, and that is a fundamentally different relationship than what you have with software that makes money by selling you a $39 product and then gets out of your way. There are three deep misunderstandings that keep people from making this evaluation honestly. The first is that Linux is for experts. It used to be true. It is no longer true. Zorin OS Pro can be installed and operated by anyone who can install Windows. The terminal is optional. The interface is graphical. The learning curve is comparable to switching from Windows 10 to Windows 11, which millions of people did without thinking of it as a technical challenge. The second misunderstanding is about compatibility. People assume that because their software is Windows software, it cannot work on Linux. But the reality is that the majority of professional software in 2025 is web-based. If you are using a browser for most of your work, the operating system under the browser is nearly irrelevant, and web-based tools represent the direction software is moving. The question is not whether your current tools work, it is whether your future tools will be locked to Windows. The third misunderstanding is about support. People believe that if something goes wrong, they have nowhere to turn. But the Linux community is enormous, highly technical, and deeply documented. The Zorin forums, the Ubuntu forums, and platforms like Ask Ubuntu contain answers to virtually every problem you could encounter. The support ecosystem is different from a phone number, but it is not inferior. The real misunderstanding underneath all of these is that switching is irreversible. It is not. You can run Zorin from a USB drive without installing anything to test your workflow. You can dual boot, keeping Windows alongside Linux. You can switch back. This is a test you can run with almost no risk, which is something most people in this conversation have never realized. Here is exactly what to do if you want to evaluate this seriously. Step 1. Before anything else, audit your software. Write down every application you use in a typical week. Then go through that list and answer one question for each. Is this app browser-based, or does it require a local Windows installation? Most people find that 70 to 80% of their stack is browser-based. Step 2. Download the Zorin OS Pro ISO from the official Zorin website. If you want to test before purchasing, the core edition is free and gives you a representative experience. Step 3. Download Balena Etcher, a free tool that writes the ISO to a USB drive. Use a USB drive that is at least 8 gigabytes. Step 4. Restart your computer and boot from the USB. Every machine is slightly different, but typically you press F12, F2, or the delete key during startup to access the boot menu. Select the USB drive. Step 5. Run Zorin in live mode. This means you are running it directly from the USB without installing anything. Your hard drive is not touched. Test your workflow. Open a browser. Test your web apps. Check if your Wi-Fi connects. See if things feel functional. Step 6. If the live test goes well, consider a dual boot installation. This puts Zorin on a separate partition of your hard drive alongside Windows. You choose which one to start each time you turn on the computer. This eliminates the risk entirely because you still have Windows whenever you need it. Step 7. Give it 30 days of primary use, not occasional use, primary use. The way you evaluate any tool is by using it in the conditions you need it to perform. 30 days is long enough to encounter the real friction points, decide whether they are deal breakers or adjustments. This process costs you a USB drive and some time. That is the full risk of the experiment. Here is the honest summary. Windows is not bad software. It is mature, widely compatible, and familiar to most people who use computers professionally. For people in environments where enterprise integration, Adobe tools, or specific Windows-only software are genuinely required, staying on Windows is the rational choice. But for a significant portion of modern professionals, designers who work in Figma, writers who work in Google Docs, developers who work in a browser and a terminal, consultants who live in spreadsheets and presentations, educators, researchers, content creators, the case for Windows is largely inertia. It is familiarity. It is the assumption that there is no viable alternative. Zorin OS Pro challenges that assumption directly. It is not perfect. It requires evaluation and, in some cases, adjustment. But it offers something that Windows structurally cannot offer. An operating system whose financial interests are aligned with the person using it, not with the ecosystem wrapped around them. You paid for your hardware. The operating system should work for you, not for a subscription model, not for an advertising platform, not for a cloud storage upsell. The fact that this is now a realistic option for everyday professionals, not just Linux enthusiasts, not just developers, is genuinely significant. And the fact that most people have never seriously evaluated it means the information gap is the only thing standing between where you are and a decision you might be glad you made. That is the takeaway. Not that you should switch, but that you should look. Because looking costs nothing, and the answer might surprise you. If this video helped you think more clearly about your tools, consider subscribing. Next week, we are going deeper into the practical side. What to do when your Windows-only app does not work on Linux, and how professionals are handling the gaps. That one is worth staying for.